Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams and tonight is May the 11th. Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. Those two songs are going to be pretty much the theme of tonight's show. Though there isn't much intel this week for certain reasons. I'm going to be covering certain aspects of our lives that we need to address and look at. And the first song, Waiting on a World to Change, that changes us. It always has been. And that is going to be the theme for tonight's show. The second song, sang by an 11-year-old girl called Jaden Riley. The opening line, "Hello darkness, my old friend." Do we really want to keep darkness as our old friend? And another line in that song, "Silence like a cancer grows." Silence by the masses equals complicit. And this is where we the people, not just the awakened people, but all, have to change. The change, as the first song said, waiting for the world to change. Well, the world won't change. The world is what it is. And it's only we that can change it. Where we create the world in our image, not theirs. So we'll have more on that later. There is a little couple of lines of intel that may be of interest, and kind of some previous confirmations. Right, for those who are new to the show, this is the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. We have an email for people who want to pass comments or they want to ask questions for the show. Apologies this week, I haven't had time to get round to the questions from the emails, but there's enough questions in there tonight to satisfy most. So the email is truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail.com. This show is available on Spreaker Live, and it's also available in the archives on the YouTube channel called the Tommy Williams channel, or if you just type in Truth, Honour and Integrity, it will come up. And all the archives of what is now 12 months of shows. This completes the 12 months of 1 year of THI. Of course, on the 15th of May last year, we all got unceremoniously booted as a cosmic voice. But time and people move on. I think Cosmic Voice is happier, and I think our group is also happier, so we'll leave it at that. We also have an articles website called thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org, and a Facebook social media alternative. So many emails saying I don't do Facebook. Well, we now have an alternative on the MeWe /truth-honour-integrity, or you can send your email address to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Gmail, and then we can link you into that site as well. People's Club donations are still ongoing, and that's the peoplesclub.org for people who want to donate to that. Right, let's get into some news. And it's been confusing, it's been convoluted, and it still is, and it will remain so until eventually things will get a lot clearer. But at this time now, things, as warned, we've warned of many things on this show that have come to fruition later on. And this was another one. that things would get very convoluted and very confusing, and it is. Even for myself, I might add. But we're going to go to what's probably the main story, and this is Mr. Trump and Comey, the FBI man. I'm not going to put too much of my own opinion. There is bits of it, but I will present the evidence, and people can make their own minds up, because that's more important to me than just following my narrative. But Trump reportedly scolded Comey in a letter stating, "You are not able to effectively lead the FBI. As such, a change in leadership was necessary to rebuild trust between the White House and law enforcement." The FBI corrected part of Comey's testimony after Comey appeared before the Senate on Monday, and Comey claimed that Huma Abedin, the husband of the guy who was sexting and disgraced former Congressman Anthony Weiner, made a regular practice of sending thousands of classified emails to her husband. On Tuesday, the FBI officials had to clarify Comey's statement, saying investigators ultimately determined that 2 email chains containing classified information were manually forwarded to Mr. Weiner's account. Many of the emails that landed on Weiner's computer from Abedin were the result of incidental backup activity performed by the computer itself, not Clinton aide Abedin. And if you believe that, you believe anything. The firing also incidentally occurs just days after Comey testified before Congress on alleged Russian hacking in the 2016 US presidential election. So what are the media saying? Well, there's some examples for you to make your own mind up. The Washington Post think he was fired to curtail Russian election hacking. The New York Times comment, "Not since Watergate has a president dismissed a person leading an investigation bearing on him." CNN, "Comey never provided the president with any assurance of personal loyalty. The fact that the FBI's investigation into possible Trump team collusion with Russia in the 2016 election was accelerating." Now, the White House version of what happened is that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, amazes me how many Nazi/Zionist names we have in head office or top brass, but there you go. It may be an indicator. Who is fresh on the job, wrote a memo expressing concern about the way Comey had handled the Hillary Clinton email investigation, but mounting evidence suggests Comey was actually fired because of the Russian investigation. Rosenstein, in his memo, faulted Comey for being unfair to Clinton when he announced his conclusion last July that the case against Clinton should be closed without prosecution. He also criticised Comey for holding a press conference in which he released derogatory information about the subject of a declined criminal investigation. Now, I made a statement last week. Some seem to have missed it. Some seem to miss an awful lot, which is kind of disturbing to me. But we'll repeat it again. The real reason for the Comey testimony is the first public gambit in creating a doubt of the current administration, with the goal of installing Android, aka Hillary Clinton, as the new president before the end of this month. Now the question remains, how many has Trump fired of his team, some of which were his own appointments and some not? could you possibly not foresee a scenario created of removal of the president by incompetency? Question mark. With Comey out of the way and discredited, no more exposures of Hillary and her crimes in Benghazi, emails, Huma Abedin, who is Hillary Clinton's lover, by the way, for those that don't know, and pervert husband Weiner attaining incriminating emails and national secrets. So the question remains, who will step into Comey's shoes? If it's recent evidence to go by, we'll probably have another Goldman Sachs appointee. We've had 3 or 4 already. Or maybe we'll get another Obama or idiot Bush appointee, a NATO man. Think about that. In terms of the factions. Now you know why we did the factions show 18 months ago. It makes things an awful lot clearer for those who grasp that particular show. So you don't think certain things can happen? Well, what about this piece on the same day? South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham has announced that he wants to see a probe of the US President Donald Trump's business ties to Russia. And the President has responded by hiring the leading law firm in DC to send a certified letter asserting that he has no ties to the Kremlin. When asked about Graham's call for an investigation during Tuesday's White House briefing, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer asserted that Trump is fine with that. On Monday, Graham asked former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper during a hearing if he had any concerns about Trump's dealings with Russia. Clapper said he preferred not to comment on the topic because it could be a subject of an existing investigation. Oops. On CNN, Clinton News Network, Graham asserted that he would like to find out how the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, was conducting its probe and then possibly launch a separate inquiry. He added that he will stay clear, however, if it would interfere with the FBI investigation. So there's all the information. Now, some are pleased Comey is gone. Maybe a lot of people are pleased Comey is gone. But the timing doesn't augur too well. That is my opinion. It's not what I know, it's my opinion. It appears that certain evidence of Mr. Trump and payments, which may come out this week, that will be very, very damaging. So you can see how and why there's a possible scenario of turfing them out, because people think, well, it'll go to Pence, well, it'll go to this. The powers that be make up their own rules. This is the worrying aspect. They don't play by rules. They just make decisions and then bend the law to fit. Look what happened at the 2000 US election. Did Bush win? No, he never. Was he in the White House? Yes. Why? Because they bent the rules. They bent the rules for at least 146 years. No American alive today has had a proper American president. That's how they bend rules and make laws to fit. And people go, no, it'll have to be the Vice President. Then it goes to the Speaker of the House. Now, they make up their own rules. They're not happy. They've also just installed the latest cabal agent, Mr. Macron, in France, with collusion from the so-called opposition. I pointed that out last week before the election result was announced. It was clear. Miss Le Pen was operating under the National Front Party and gained a lot of ground, and the week before the election decides to drop that party and go independent, basically putting two fingers up to all those that supported her. How and why would he do that? Well, maybe Miss Le Pen was the same as Trump until there was interference. She was there to facilitate Macron, who nobody had ever heard of until a couple of years ago, a bit like Obama, just slides in. Connections with Zionism. It's just repeat and repeat and repeat. This is what I'm kind of going to be going on later on in my op-ed piece. They will continue to repeat things, but if we continue to allow them to repeat things, then it's us that's at fault, not them. You know, you could argue, well, they're not playing fair. Maybe they're not. But it doesn't mean we have to comply with what they're giving us. Look at the US election. Are those two candidates really representative of American people? I'd hate to think so. One, a business shark who's been bankrupt 6 times and rolled and bailed out by Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and also some KGB money. And the other is not even alive. He's either a double, clone, or robot. Make your own mind up. Is an all-out psychopathic warmonger. Are these the candidates that should be representing the American people? Most would say, not really, no. Then what are we going to do about it? The answer is to take them all out. I've said this all along. It'll create chaos. Yes, it will. But haven't we had totalitarian chaos for the last 30 years? 40 years? Maybe even 50? Maybe even as far back as World War II? The totalitarian creep. They were changing the banking rules. They were creating United Nations and all kinds of other agreements and drafts while the war was ongoing. We're supposed to be dropping bombs on each other. Meanwhile, the elites of the representative countries of the war were all hobnobbing. And we've ignored it for far too long. Washington, the den of iniquity, axis of evil. This is something I mentioned going back 3 or 4 years ago about the caliphate. Maybe this next piece might wake some people up to the reality of it. US Secretary of Defense James Mattis told Turkish Defense Chief Fikri Isik in a phone call that the United States remains committed to preventing security risks for the country. On Tuesday, the US Defense Department announced that President Donald Trump approved a plan to arm Kurdish groups fighting Daesh terror groups in Syria, despite objections from Turkey. The Secretary reiterated the US commitment to protecting our NATO ally and preventing additional safety and security risks, and so that both leaders affirmed their support for peace and stability in both Iraq and Syria. Those of you that don't remember, I read a Vatican manifest 20 years ago, 20 years ago, where it spoke about emptying the whole of the Middle East out of all people, not just Palestinians, all of them, building the wall right across the Middle East to include the southern part of Turkey, destroying the Dome of the Rock and building the Third Temple, and the Vatican would move from Rome to Jerusalem. And people laughed. That can't happen. Syria emptied out, Libya emptied out, Palestine emptied out. How much far further does it have to go before people see what's going on and counteract it? So whilst the world focuses on North Korea, one country always has the propensity to use that mask while everyone's looking the other way, that mask of confusion, to create more mayhem. Yes, the Zionist nation. I won't call it Israel no more. It is what it is. The Zionist nation. Nothing to do with the people. So, what have they been up to? Well, their planes have been attacking the Syrian government. But this week they came unstuck, according to this report. The Syrian air defence shot down an Israeli warplane and hit another one after 4 aircraft had breached the war-torn country's airspace and attacked government troops near Palmyra. Our anti-aircraft systems reacted and shot down one of the planes in the occupied territories. Another plane was also hit, but the rest flew away, the Army Command said in a statement obtained by Sputnik News. The Syrian army claimed the Israeli Air Force had targeted government troops near Palmyra. They do that every single time. Something for people to watch. When there's a commotion going on elsewhere, Israel start building homes, or Zionist nation start building homes, or they start bombing people. They've done it over and over again. Now, we mentioned France, and kind of smacks of what took place here. France sought to keep a computer hack of frontrunner, this was before the election result, Emmanuel Macron's campaign emails from influencing the outcome of the country's presidential election, with a warning last Saturday it could be a criminal offence to republish the data. Macron's team said a massive hack had dumped emails, documents and campaign financing information online just before campaigning ended on Friday, and France entered a quiet period which forbids politicians from commenting on the leak. Indeed. The data leak emerged as polls predicted Macron, a former investment banker, yeah, right, thief, in other words. And also an economy minister was on course for a comfortable victory over the far-right leader Marine Le Pen on Sunday's election, with the last survey showing his lead had widened. So it appears those Russians again, they've been interfering with the France election now. Oh dear me. And this is going to be a common theme. Of course, we have a bogus UK election coming up next month. Watch the Russians get blamed again. May will win. I'll tell you that for nothing. Like I knew Macron would win. It all becomes so obvious. So Mr. Macron went on to win the election in a landslide this week, proving cabal and their agents are still running the show. The alleged opposition was like Trump, a split vote to appeal to the angry citizens with some anti-globalist rhetoric. And then she stepped out just at the right time to denounce her own party. She should be lynched for that, in my opinion. The Euronews outlet ran the headline, Macron victory heralds a new political era in France, and the spin of newness was contradicted by the accompanying photograph of Mr. Macron being flanked by the outgoing president, Francois Hollande. Mr. Hollande is one of the top cabal, 300 Club, Bilderbergers and all that stuff. The establishment, in other words. And apparently he's the most despised president in modern history of France. Mr. Hollande and his political cronies destroyed the Socialist Party with their servile embrace of neoliberal capitalist policies. And Mr. Macron, who is now the current incumbent, was one of those cronies who was appointed economy minister by Mr. Hollande in 2014 without ever having served in elected office before. Sound familiar? Mr. Obama. It was Macron who designed the much-hated employment reforms, gutting employee rights and giving bosses greater power to hire and fire. As the new president, Mr. Macron is promising to drive through even more draconian measures. Yes, indeed, draconian. Undermining workers and trade unions. Members of Hollande's discredited government, like former Prime Minister Manuel Valls, are clamouring to get on board with Mr. Macron. Indeed. One thing the French won't do is tolerate it. They're fond of riots and demonstrations, and they do hit them where it hurts, money. Often when I was in the UK, you waited for the summer and like clockwork the French airports went on strike. Shutting down all the Brits flying to Spain, because you have to go over France because of some bizarre air territory of the military. Won't allow you to go certain ways. But they always went on strike, and the biggest one that really brought the whole country to a standstill and really hit them in the pocket was when all the truckers came out and blocked every single highway. Every motorway in the UK, every interstate in America. Maybe something we need to consider. So, another country goes bankrupt. Puerto Rico. Except this is going to have big implications. Oh, yet again, the world's mugs, American people. The bankruptcy of Puerto Rico is going to threaten the livelihoods of Americans who planned their retirement on the island's promises. They've bludgeoned investors and undermined state governments. The bankruptcy may also provide hope of fiscal sustainability and improved services for Puerto Rico as the US territory attempts to dig out of $74 billion in debt and $49 billion in pension promises. If Puerto Rico is $49 billion short in pension promises, how much is America? I remember reading about 8 or 9 years ago, in fact it might be longer now, it's probably near 12, that Britain's pension fund was 80 billion in the red. Imagine how much worse it is now. Or because the same clowns decided to steal from it, gamble, throw it on the stock market, it went wrong, and oh why, never mind, it's only the people's pensions, they won't complain too much. Well, we should. The sound of silence should be no more. Of course, Puerto Ricans, in some bizarre twist of fate, are also American citizens. I don't remember the people having a vote on that, but there you go. I'm not being, before people jump on down my throat, I'm not being nasty to Puerto Ricans. What I'm getting at is the policies of adding other countries into citizenship that impacts the American people who don't have any say in it. Of course, most people who listen to this show know why Puerto Rico is part of America. That lovable giant, or perhaps not, called the IRS is stationed there. Nothing to do with being nice to Puerto Ricans, is it? Offshore accounts, trust accounts. That's basically what the IRS is, trust account for the Crown of England, not America. So they went on to say the Puerto Ricans are suffering under the weight of heavy debt. No, the bankers are. As per usual, they pass it on to the people. Government bureaucracy, high taxes and poor access to economic opportunities. And this bankruptcy may lead to their pensions and healthcare insurance taking hits. Go figure. While services could also suffer. Go figure again. It's estimated that some pensioners may get cuts of up to 20%, and that may be necessary to help stabilise the island. So the people pay because they got into debt again, and we tolerate this. Puerto Rico has lost 20% of its jobs since 2007 and also 10% of its population, sparking an economic crisis that worsens by the day. And without action to improve services such as public safety, health and education, the island's population loss could continue or even accelerate. I'm going to pass comment on this because people will have seen this type of effort before in Greece. Germany turned round to Greece and Cyprus, I might add, and told them, you can pay your debts off by selling us the islands. In other words, sell us your land and then we'll take over your ports and then your airports, and then you see how it goes. Of course, we had a created incident in a place not too far from here, Haiti. All the elites are buying up vast tracts of land where the people are being moved out by the alleged earthquake for pennies on the dollar. Puerto Rico, you're next. Come and join us and stand up. So it's kind of okay. This is kind of off the wall a bit, but Mr. Stephen Colbert has got into trouble this week for a comment he made about Mr. Trump. It seems it's okay for the FCC to ignore the likes of Hitler to say 4 dead American ambassadors doesn't matter on TV, but if you say a joke, they decide to step in. Mr. Colbert had fired back at Trump after Trump had dismissed CBS's Sunday morning politics show Face the Nation as fake news and defaced the nation, he called it in an interview. After the fiery takedown of the president, who has been nothing but good for his ratings, Colbert said, "The only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's cock holster." A bit crude, but certainly not in the same level as saying 4 dead American ambassadors doesn't matter. The FCC didn't step in then, did they? A new report released on Monday by the US House of Representatives Homeland Security, aka Nazis, indicates domestic radicalization has grown in the US, with 39 recorded cases of homegrown jihadism recorded in 20 states over the last month, an increase in 8% since March. Cases of homegrown Islamic extremism in the United States continue to increase as US persons radicalize. Since September the 11th, terrorist attacks, which were nothing to do with Islam or Muslims, there have been 209 homegrown jihadist cases in the United States, of which 132 involved ISIS-related CIA groups. I could go on. I won't. It beggars belief. Where are we for time? The director of the Census Bureau. That's a laugh. Another spying agency. Is going to resign in June as the agency faces a funding crisis looking to 2020, presumably for the next Census Bureau. Point remains, why do we need a Census Bureau? If over half of the American people are microchipped, with all the available spying and tracking systems they now have via the phones, why do we need a census? We've got satellites overhead that can track heat signatures from space and tell them how many people live in each home. Home security, notice that's been on TV a lot. Bright House and Spectrum and all the others, AT&T. Come and have our home security. Do you really think it's that is there to protect your home? Think again. It's more spy tech. And we all sign up for it. We have to educate ourselves, all of us, about how far they are down the road with technology. We've seen a raft of it come out, but we really have to start looking at it in a discerning way. How can that be used against us? because virtually all technology that's been released in the last 20 years has been used against us. Phones, tracking, apps that are allowed to collect all your data, all the apps, all your contacts, all your emails, all your texts. It tells you when you download it. And we sign up for that. Chips. Samsung told you they've got chips in the TV where they can hear and see what you're doing in your home. Cable boxes, same as. And we allow this. Then the computer games. Yes, put on these headphones and let's participate in mind control. Because that's what computer games are. Xbox, etc. and all the other gaming boxes. It's mind control. You see now some of the kids can't stop playing it. Hours and hours and hours. I was told the story of one kid who went on for 36 hours non-stop. No sleep. Just playing the computer game. It's mind control. So I would like people who listen to this show to start looking at technology for what it is, because very little of it, if any of it, is for really to do with our benefit. It's to do with them being able to control, spy or mind control us. Orwell warned of it, 33 years ago now. We're in it. We too easily, I'll mention this in the op-ed piece, how so easily we accept the programs and how small changes in our lives where we're not applying our convenience can change so much more for a better world. Not only for you, but for the people around you. So we're going to go into given the intel is only small. I'm going to tell you the intel. This will only take me less than a minute, and then we'll go into a music break. Now there was a report this week that was posted on the Facebook or the MeWe group, and it talked about transparent banking, transparent systems. Of course, you know where you heard that first, but that's not the point. That system is in the US Treasury. Oops. Now at this stage, it's only a rumour. I'm waiting for further confirmation, and until then it is a rumour that the US Treasury has a different currency to roll out, and it's not notes. Hi all, and welcome to the second hour this evening And this is going to be an op-ed piece because I think it's badly required. It doesn't apply to all, so please don't take it that way. It's just a generalization. It's not labelled at any particular person or group. It's just the way I see the world today, as we are. And I've just played that song. And I'm going to go through a few of the lyrics because it plays into this piece. And people should remember the opening line in it: the higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. This is what we need now. The further you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away, no matter, because there's something inside so strong. And this is what this piece is about, is making each and every one of us inside stronger. It's not a critique piece. Some may feel that way. Some will understand why they feel that way, because it kind of covers it. The more you refuse to hear my voice, the louder I will sing. Again, this is about us standing up and having a voice. No silence. We've been silent for too long. You hide behind the walls of Jericho, District of Columbia, Rome, City of London. Your lies will come tumbling. Deny my place in time, you squander wealth, that's mine. Those last two lines, deny my place in time. We may have a bigger understanding of that before the year's out. What that entails, what that really means. You squander wealth, that's mine. Yes, it's our money they're squandering. It's our labour that's created their so-called wealth. My light will shine so brightly, it will blind you. This next piece is designed to shine everybody's light, so we blind them permanently. But we must start to look at ourselves. So this is not meant to judge you or to make you feel guilty. It's all about getting each and every individual to its optimal point of development, to shine your light brightly. Now, there are things that are happening on the ground level that will be testing for us in the near future. There are things that are happening on a solar, galactic and universal level also. And the important thing is we need to be ready for all possibilities. That will not be possible with baggage. Now, apparently, according to some, our show is negative. I don't particularly agree with that, but people have a choice, and I can live with that if that's what they feel. We started this show near 12 months ago now, as I said earlier, with a drive to make the path clearer. Too many of us in the alternative media have been led down side streets of bullshittery to stop us looking and facing the truth. I will make no apologies for calling things as it is, whether that news is good, bad or indifferent. It is what it is. Like they will say, what you see is what you get. I'm no different off air call it as it is. Now, I'm not here to be a one-man promotional show either. I pay little or no attention unless certain milestones are reached on figures for the show or the pages. I'm not interested in volumes of Facebook friends. I could have many, many thousands of friends. It doesn't interest me. I choose to have around 60. So, this is not a popularity contest. My show's better than your show, and let's all knock all the other alternative media so I'm the only show left. I don't want me to be the only show. I want volumes of shows from volumes of people. But the stuff that gets delivered is some serious shit in our lives. And people really need to start paying more attention and deeper attention to what is really going on. Like I said, the show's not about me. The show's purpose is to get you to think for yourselves, get you to think and act differently. The empowerment of you, not me, the empowerment of you, the listener. Opening up doors to the hidden realms, the hidden realities, the hidden secrets, and most importantly, removing the programming, false mindset, lies of the past, releasing your inner demons, traumas, and mind melding. That's what this show is about, in its totality. Now, I know there's a lot of fun on the page, and I like fun, but people like to wind me up on the page. Like I said, I take it in good spirit due to my like of domesticated spies known as cats. But should it be posted 2 or 3 a day, or around a dozen on every Thursday chat? And people then wonder why some miss what is being said in the show. Either they didn't hear it, or they misunderstood it, or they didn't hear it how it was said. Now, like I said, no one loves a laugh more than me. I've tried to insert it into the show to lighten things up at certain times. My home birth city is known for its humour, but there's a time and a place. I've always tried to lighten the load with funny terms like bullshittery, which seems to have got a life of its own, nutty asshole, Hitlery, and the classic android. But we also must focus more on the task at hand. Is life crap for some or all of us? Absolutely. But what have we done to correct it? That's the question. On a personal or a collective level. And like I said earlier, I'll repeat again for those hard of hearing, this is not a challenge, by the way, to anybody listening. It is a way to make you think, can I do more? What am I capable of? Do I repeatedly limit myself? Big questions for the listener to absorb. I can't give you the answers to that. That's your personal space. Now, is the news all around the world all positive and love and light? Absolutely not. So the question is how can the listeners describe the show as negative if much of what is going on is also negative? Could it not be the case that the listeners perceive it as negative, as one, they feel guilty for not seeing it sooner, or two, they feel guilty because they feel they can't make any change, i.e., limiting thyself? Or three, the world is lovely with butterflies, angels, crystals and stones, geometric shapes, chanting mantras, singing Kumbaya, and all hail the blue aliens. They're all here to fix it for us whilst we do nothing. But clearly it's not. Life is about harsh reality. Truth is harsh reality. Truth is painful. Many have found that out this year in particular. Truth can also be triggering in many ways. And the reason for that is it gets people to look at things they would rather not see in themselves. Now, many shows ago, I termed this, or us who do that, the sin eaters, because we learn the truth. And as we learn the truth, we are consuming the sins of others. Our load is heavy, as the consuming is still done by the minority of people. It's time the rest of the people started sharing in it. You can't live life through a holographic bubble permanently and expect change. This show's had a number of positive stories. Of course, we have exposed much of the criminality of the cabal, the hidden books of the banking systems, etc., etc., and also for what is of great sadness to me, some of the criminality of the alternative media. Now, the foundation is a positive, and yes, it hasn't launched in the manner or the time we would have all liked, none more so than me. And I can give you all the reasons why. I think most of you are now aware why. The minute any money goes out into the public, it's stolen. Even the US government can't keep the thieves at bay. We told you this last November. So what chance have we got? None. Do we want to give them the opportunity to scoop up a nice tidy sum that's designated for the foundation and play more fun and games? No, we don't. That's the reason the foundation is not launched. But we can also look at it another way. We could wait for the trust fund, but we the people can do something also. But to date have chosen not to. And this is where some of the problems lie. I mentioned about $1 a week or $1 a month. Now, if just 10% of American adults put $1 a week in, that's $20 million a week. Or $80 to $100 million a month. How many credit cards or loans could we wipe out with that? That's us fixing our own mess with $1 a week. It's not even a lotto, half a lotto card. Or Powerball. With $80 to $100 million a month, how many jobs can we create ourselves? We can't run it with 3 people. So we would need to employ people. 80 to 100 million a month, $1 a week, 10% of American adults. That's only putting $1 in. Some people might put 5 in, some might put 10. Some people have put $500 in. But how many people-based projects could we implement with that type of funding? Now, it doesn't really matter what your financial position is. I've been poor, I've also been well off, and I've also swung backwards and forwards. But everyone's in a position to put at least $1 per month in. Some would argue $1 a week. It's all about sacrifice at the end of the day, isn't it? Do you really need that lotto ticket? And not replace it with the foundation ticket, which you win every week. Your $1 with 10% of American adults supporting it is a lotto win for the American people. Every single donation. And so it's all about how we can fix our own mess and not necessarily relying on others. Now, I want to stress to those who have already donated, and I want to say a massive big thank you to all of you who have donated so generously to the People's Club. I appreciate every single dollar donated. Now, to give you an update on that, all the expenses have gone on the filing, the cost of the website, the domain names, which is ongoing, I think it's every quarter, the registrations and other expenses agreed by members, which was for a microphone and a headset for the show, and a laptop that was agreed by the 3 directors for travelling, which was supposed to be January, but now it's been put back for various reasons, as explained earlier, for when certain things get underway. And $50 a month goes towards the cost. It's not towards, it pays for the cost of the shows. To date, none of the funds have been paid to myself, Holly Peterson, or Mark Lacasse, who are the other 2 directors of the foundation, or to Chloe, who did a lot of the setting up and filing and getting it ready for operation. So we've not had a single cent out of it, and that will continue. Most of it's going, like I said, on the operating costs. Maybe one day when I get time, which is like 0 chance at the moment, I'll do a full rundown. But basically, from what I gather, there's been about $11,000 being put in, and there's about 600 or 700 left in the account, and 10,000 has gone on the above costs. You know, the original estimate for setting up the foundation was $15,000. So we did some of the work ourselves to keep the costs down, and we've done rather well to get that operational, and also pay for the show and the laptop. It's not the most expensive laptop, and the microphone and the headset as well. So we've done well. And I also have to add, neither has Michael Jacquin been paid for all the great work he's done with the website and the side pages We, Me and Think Different. So that's where the foundation money has been going. But if we got 10% of American adults putting $1 in per week, we can change things ourselves. We can end debt for everybody. 100 million a month, 1.2 billion. so we can create our own jobs. We don't need governments. We can end our own debt. And this is something we really need to start doing. I asked a question on the OYM show a number of months ago, and the silence was deafening. You can try this yourself. Ask a person, doesn't matter who it is, whether they're awake or not. If the cabal step down at midnight tonight, what will you do next? Most people say party. And then what? When I've asked that question, the silence is deafening. What I want to hear is, we'll have to do this, we'll have to do that. We could actually implement this. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do that. I want to hear a plethora of ideas of the people then creating their own system and not tolerating the current one which we're given. That's what I want to hear. And until we get to that stage, we're always going to be stuck with the cabal in its various formats. It may not be as severe as the current lot are, but if the people can't step into the void of the cabal leaving, then we're going to get stuck with the cabal again. And history, like it always seems to do, repeats itself. And this is what this whole op-ed piece is about. What can we do? Now, the sovereignty story is another positive that's going to change certain dynamics. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I know there's been questions on it. I'm not going to go out and say any further, because at the moment the people involved in that are being shot at and abduction attempts. So I'm not saying any further for their security. It's not a cop-out. You can take it whichever way you want. That is the reality. It's still ongoing. It's still valid. And it's still coming to fruition. So the sovereignty story is a positive, although some want to look for faults in it rather than looking for the positive side of what it actually entails. Now, our particular show has been proven to be right in many aspects. Some proofs take longer than others, but eventually it comes round. Do I always get it right? Absolutely not. I am human after all. But I've always held my hand up and says, you know what, I got that wrong. Some have thought many times I've got things wrong, only to find out 12 months later, or 2 years, or even 2 weeks. It's just the way it is. It's kind of frustrating for me, being where you can see into the future, certain aspects of it. You can see things, operate from an overview point of view. You can see things that the masses can't, because they're too embroiled in the noise. If you step back and view, you gain a lot of wisdom, and I've done that for a large part of, well, certainly the last 30 years of my life, maybe even 40. Watched and observed. Don't get involved, embroiled in the noise and chatter. That's kind of the way they want you to be, all distracted and immersed in the bullshit, so you can't see the hidden hand. Now, some people have said they don't like our show mentioning ill of others in the alternative media. Now, personally, I won't mention ill of anybody without full proof and verified information. And if I think certain people are doing harm to others, I will say so. And yes, I, as the messenger, will always carry the can for the attacks or the abuse. That's just the way it works. But it's ironic to me that messengers, for some strange reason, are held more accountable than the politicians or the cabal. You know, it's not like I don't feel we should be not held accountable, because we should. But it's the depth of it. If people dug into more of what the cabal and the politicians and the bankers are doing, then we'd all be a lot happier. But all people should be held accountable. But the disparity I find alarming to most of us in the alternative media. Now, messengers also become a projection screen for the release of the listeners' hidden traumas. I'm aware of that. We did recently the Illuminati 1 and 2. It pulled out traumas for people. You were warned before. It doesn't hide the trauma, but it does bring it out. It also releases the hidden angers of people, hidden fears of some individuals, because they have chosen to not look at their own shadow sides or have done their own inner work. A person who's always angry and immersed in confrontation is always a sign they are angry within themselves. And that all comes down to personal responsibility. People getting angry are angry with themselves. People that are always angry are guaranteed problematic within themselves. But people project out. And me, as a messenger, sometimes gets that. Now, the easiest thing in the world is to blame someone or something else for all their ills, or all our ills. It's called the victim mode. Now, every individual has a choice and an opportunity to change within and also their surroundings. But so many of us refuse that and then project it onto others. Remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I'm not going to mention names, I spent a lot of time helping people understand certain things that was happening to them, particularly on the ET side, and some of the demonic attacks that some people were struggling with. But this one particular person was complaining that their family members were picking on her. Eventually I said, well, you have to leave and move somewhere else. That particular person had the opportunity to do so and not tolerate that behaviour that's being exhibited to you. The person replied, oh, I can't leave my family like that. So my response was, so you like being the victim then? Now, the said person got very angry and cut me off. Why? Because I told her the truth. You can't ask for the truth and then rail against it. So the person was playing the victim. It was that person's choice. They had options to correct it themselves, but chose the convenient path and suffered. It doesn't matter whether it's a family member or not. You're not here to be abused by anybody. It's worse as a family member. I know that more than most. Some of the things my family did to me, horrendous. Now, conversely, if one is depressed by the information, this too is a sign that you are stuck in duality. Anger and sadness are one and the same in effect on our bodies. Bad vibrations. Minds and souls are polar, and only balance, that word again, gets us all as a race moving forward. So, given this example, you can see how we are able to do more damage to ourselves than even the cabal can. The victimhood mode allows convenience, as it throws the responsibility onto others. I am this way because such and such did this to me or that to me. We can all deny it, but we've all done it, myself included. I played the victim until I was roughly 30 years of age. Did I have extenuating circumstances for that? Yes. But I made the choice to step out and away from it. But the key, as always, is recognising it within yourself and then taking steps to correct it. Recognising where we play their game releases the duality of extremes of emotion that keep us at the whim of the matrix, and also the human controllers, and the not so human as well. By recognising where our shadows lay, or doing soul retrievals on traumatised parts of us, we integrate and find balance, our centre within us, to rise above the mental mind game of contributing our precious energy to the matrix game stroke movie. The key to people is to recognise where we react to extremes, like anger, depression, needing to be saved, or to be the guru or the saviour. See it, feel it, and recognise the parts we all project onto others when we stand in the biggest pile of the same crap. Projecting our uncomfortable feelings onto others does not help resolve the situation. And the best thing you can do is to let it go. All of it. Doesn't matter who did what to who. I know some people who listen to the show have had some horrendous experiences, some worse than others. Some of them, those traumas are unforgivable. I've spoken to many of the members, but you can't hold on to it. It eats away at your insides. How can your light shine when the insides are dark? It's filled with trauma, anger, depression, sadness, hurt. Forgive yourself, forgive them, and let it go. It's the only way to be. Now, the Saviour program can be even more damaging than the victimhood one. Saviour program leads to apathy, which is kind of what we've got now in the world. People's apathetic. Why? Because they think somebody else is going to fix it for them. Large majority of the people think gods are going to fix it for them. Jesus is going to come down and save them. Governments are going to fix it. That's a laugh. But with the Saviour programme, someone else should come along and fix everything. Whether that be an alternative media host, or talking heads, to government, or scientists should fix it, or the church should fix it, or God should fix it. And onto the classic programme implemented by the cabal and their agencies of ET saviours. Whether that be the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, angels, ascended masters, and their patronising dear ones bullshittery. Michael, Gabriel, and the classic in bullshittery, the Blue Avians. All designed to make you think they will fix everything for you and save us. Look at the history. It's not worked out too well, has it? 16,500 years ago, the Draco said they were coming to save us. Does it look like they were saving us? Used the term earlier. Draconian measures. It's all in the words. Well, this show has stood firm and told you all along who saves us. It is us, ourselves. It has to be. Because if we don't, the reality is we'll never rise above childlike level. And will always be classed as an unintelligent race. That was covered in the Humanity Unplugged shows. All are responsible for fixing the current conditions, as all of us are affected by it. The victim-saviour programming is like a metronome rhythmical timer. It swings from one side to the other, and the cabal and their minions know this. They play the timer on regular occasions to veer us off course. Now the key, as mentioned in this show, is to stop the timer. Stay in the middle. Avoid moods, high or low. Staying centred. That means what it says. No wild swings, left or right, or up and down. Centred and balanced. No loosh. Recognising programming is fairly easy to spot once you start to look and see. Two different terms. The classic program on the internet now, and some people will love this and some may not. It's the cat program. Pictures of them everywhere. Why is that? Home pages riddled with pictures, videos of cats. Where are those people's loved ones, or the parents, or the children, or the grandchildren pictures, or vacation pictures? No, it's full of cats. Think about that. This is nothing to do with my opinion on cats. This is a general observation. And now that I've mentioned it, you will see it. You will notice all the royals, the elites and the family crests. What do they all have in common? Yep, cats in them. Are they telling us something? Think about that. Black Panthers, jaguars, strategically placed at entrances to their financial districts, including some hidden bunkers. Do people not think that's strange? Just shows you how easily people can fall for the programming. Now, don't get me wrong, it's fine to like and love cats. But I prefer we start really loving humanity more. No doubt I can hear some of the comments. I'm not reading them. But they go, Thomas, don't be mean to the poor kitties. Yeah, my ass, the poor kitties. Go and ask Langley why they use the poor kitties as spies. It's programming. Right in your face. You know, it is alarming for someone who spots patterns, how suddenly everyone becomes a cat lover. It doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's part of a program or an agenda or both. I've used the example of cats because of its veracity over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, the most recent programming, particularly over the last 10 to 15 years, is to show people the dark arts. They're telling you that they practice on us for amusement. Like Harry Potter. All nicely packaged into books and movies for the public to lap up. I remember a few years ago, people queuing around the block for the latest Harry Potter book. For a book. And don't forget, the book will be available from midnight. Nice timing, is it not? The witching hour. And also when our protective field starts to weaken for approximately 4 hours in the day. 12 till 4. But if someone had told you 30 plus years ago, maybe even 20, people would be queuing up for hours on end for a book to come out at midnight, they would have thought you insane. I concur. We also had the cult movies, Tarantino. I could name a whole heap of others. Movies to get people hooked on. Yet again, they are showing you how great death and violence is. Come along and watch our gory movie. Oh, and by the way, did we tell you the movies are about what we do to you? Ho ho. No, they don't. Some people think it's entertainment, death and violence. Death and violence are not entertainment, people. It's just not. Dark arts, black magic is not entertainment either. It's programming to seduce you to the dark side. Switch off your light. Come to the dark side. We can show you magic. You will have all this power. Another type of programming, which we've covered in one of the shows, is the 5 hooks. Drugs being one of them. And I took a fair amount of flack for a comment I made on the CV show when I said every joint you smoke is more money going to the black budgets to kill, maim, torture and mind controllers. No, they cried, that's not right. But it was then. And it's more so now. All drug money is now going to the groups who control the system. They have now managed to remove all the middlemen, like the Taliban, the Venezuelans, the Colombians. They even encouraged mass death gang warfare in Mexico via Eric Holder and his Guns for Hire program. They gave them the guns to take each other out, so they didn't need a middleman anymore. Now, no doubt, it will still upset some, that comment. But like I've always said, the truth hurts, and it does. Will you make the changes and stop taking drugs? It's one of the hooks the cabal pull you in with. The sideshow is it gives them money to control you more. Now, most won't give it up, as they like the escape drugs gives you from dealing with reality. In essence, is this not another way of the you not facing up to your own shit? It may hurt someone, but it's the reality. Some people will say, oh, Pat's alright, Thomas. Fine, grow your own. Because if you continue to buy off the CIA, you're continuing the tyranny. Drugs and alcohol, for that matter, are escapism, a tool to make you stay in the illusion, never mind the dark entities it pulls into your aura. I can hear a few thinking, oh, don't say that, Thomas, that's a horrible thought. And yes, it is. But the question remains, why do you do it to yourself? Nobody makes you drink alcohol to excess. Nobody makes you take drugs. You do. Some of the kids get enrolled into peer pressure to do it. But as an adult, there's no peer pressure. It's all down to you. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not here to judge you, or anybody else for that matter. You are supposed to judge yourself only. There's no white-bearded God or winged humans sitting on clouds passing judgment either. You are your own judge and jury, and never let anyone tell you any different. Sport is another one that has become an even bigger driver of programming over the last generation. Intense rivalry and divide and conquer. But is sport fair? Absolutely not. All depends on how much money you have. Doesn't matter which sport. The teams with the richest benefactors win the game. A bit like the cabal. But if the people stop playing the game, there is no game. Well, some people are aware I've got a favourite team back in England. We're not one of the money teams, and we're automatically dismissed. There used to be 4 teams that were the TV's favourite. It's now 6. We're the 7th team. But if the other 14 got together and says, you know what, we're not tolerating those 6 teams being given all the money from the TV deals, and walked away, they have no league. They have no advertisement. They have no money to generate. And the same applies in American sports. The franchises, as they call it. No, it's not a franchise, it's an entertainment for the people. But like everything else, it turns into money. The haves and the have-nots. The soccer teams in England, it's the same 10 teams throughout all the European countries that win all the trophies every single year because they have the most money. Is that sport? No. But we still buy into it. So it's become all divide and conquer. Now, was that the way it always used to be? There's money to drive it? No. So what it's become is another program. Look at the Super Bowl. I've accented that for a reason. Super Bowl followed by Roman numerals. Why did he do that? Because it's to remind you of their power comes from Rome. Super Bowl. Aka, super, viral, spiral, vortex for whooshing. Bowl. I personally would rather not have the super moosh farm. Watching zero talent never-bees prance around on stage, pushing all Th&I's, satanic symbols, A-frames, pentagrams, Egyptian symbolism, and let's all pay homage to the Baphomet. Again, it's not my idea of entertainment. The reality is, that show is taking the piss out of the ignorant masses, right in your face. But I digress. So what is it that everyone mentions and waits for at the biggest American sporting event of the year? It's the mass programming again. And let's throw in some subliminal adverts as well. The half-time show. All about the adverts, people. Come and buy our pile of shit. And to buy that worthless pieces of shit, we will loan you money to pay for it. We will get child slave labour to make them cheap and sell them high to you, the ignorant masses. You will then pay exorbitant rates of interest back, and by the time you have finished paying, or less, we will have a new model out for you to repeat the cycle. Or your original is broken and now worthless, but you still keep paying for it. There you go. Be a nice, good little entertainment slave. And it's a reminder, we are not being entertained with this bullshittery. They are. They think it's hilarious that we fall for it. Some will think, when you put it like that, that's insanity. Those that you thought that, you got it. Programming at its finest, all nicely presented to you and all too easy to seduce and distract us with. One of the most expensive programming is the medical industry, largely in the Western world. All of you who listen to the show will be aware of the pharmaceutical shenanigans. Yeah, how many of you who listen to this show have bundles of their drugs still in your medicine cabinets and around the house? I'm not going to answer that question, only you can. Be honest, again. Don't ignore it. Deluding yourself only hurts you. Now, America is the worst by far. The so-called richest country, greatest country on earth. We've all heard that said 1,000 times. But the reality is far different. 643,000 Americans each year go bankrupt due to medical bills. All their life savings, their belongings, their homes, all gone just because they got sick or injured. Whose fault is that? Cabals? Big farmers? Some would say so, yeah. Some would also argue, no, it's our fault for successive generations allowing them to overcharge exorbitant fees and then make you pay for the rest of your life just because you had the misfortune to be ill or injured. And we all think it's okay. Most will say, no, we don't. But the question remains, why have we allowed it for so long? Doctors, 7 years training, 0 minutes on cures. But you hear it so often, the doctor knows best. Does he shite? How can he know best with no cure training? Why is their office called a practice? I'll tell you why. Because they are practicing to be a doctor. Not being a doctor, but practicing to be a doctor. They practice for 30 to 40 years and get no better. But the doctor knows best. The head of one of the biggest pharma companies, CEO, told you 90% of pharma drugs don't work on 60% of the people. And we still buy their crap. Come on. We can all blame the cabal for that. But we buy it. There's a raft of alternatives available now that actually cure all kinds of illnesses rather than buying death or slow suicide pills from the satanics. All it takes is a little bit of effort and thinking on your part, and sadly that's where some of us fail. Too convenient to just go and play along with the reality they have set out for you. Now, what if in some bizarre scenario the cabal are making things worse to get us to wake up and stand up? Think that's off the wall? It may not be. Org Tellers mentioned something in a recent video, that without a control structure the cabal have in place, we the people would end up in total chaos. Sadly, I have to agree with that on the evidence shown by the masses. Too many, the attitude is, you can do what the hell you like to us, but don't disturb my shit. This is what is holding us back as a race. I mentioned a while back about the fulcrum. Now the fulcrum is also a balancing act, a bit like the seesaw. Now if the weight is on the bottom end, someone's stuck up in the air. But if the people all jumped on the seesaw, what happens? The seesaw starts to tilt. As more and more people, the non-cabal people, get on one side of the slide, the seesaw, the cabal weakens. As the cabal weakens, we the people have to fill in the void. We have to take over, to take back and take over the void we've pushed them out of. But if we have no sense of personal responsibility, or are void of any ideas of how to go about things, how to do things in a better way, the balance is always going to be on their side, isn't it? That's just the nature. But the more they get on the people's side, suddenly they're getting tipped, aren't they? As people rise up and put forward a viable solution for a better way and better life forward, the cabal step down, because we have filled in the void. We have stood up for ourselves and gone, this is the way we want life to go, not the life you've created for us. So when all the above has been said in the manner that I've relayed it, does it not show where we have failed ourselves? We sadly too easily went along with the programs. They, for their part, hilariously laid it out for us. How you all wish for them to continue to make you the brunt of their entertainment. You just carry on being what you are. Like I said, I'm not here to judge you or anybody else. The questions remain: why are you part of an awakening if you continue to slumber in certain important aspects of your own lives? Do you like what you see? If yes, carry on. If not, jump on board with the critical thinkers and doers, as the ride is about to get real bumpy. The reality is we're in a war. This time it's not with guns or bombs. The war is for your mind. And the enemy is the self. Think about that. Because the answers to most things in life always reside within. It always has and always will be. And it's time to really remember who you are. And maybe this song will remind you. Hi all, and welcome back to the final portion of tonight's show. Some will like that last hour or so, and some won't, and some will be meh. And all opinions are valid. What I'm asking for is not to use me as the projection. All I do is point out where we can make changes in our lives as individuals and then as a collective. Now, if some of it bothers certain individuals, it's a reflection of the individual. And this is where we have to learn to let go. We hold on and blame all and sundry, and want people to make it quite clear I'm not condoning the cabal. But the reason we're doing this is to bring them down. But to bring them down, we have to have a better replacement. And currently, I envision chaos. So if we can't provide as a group, as a nation, as a continent, and as a planet, a viable alternative for a better way of living, then we're always going to be stuck with what we've got. That's what I'm trying to get through. Too many are distracted, immersed in the noise and chatter. Get the overview. Spend some time with yourself, working out your own anger, your own traumas. Will it be painful? It depends on the individual, what they've experienced, how tightly they have held on to that trauma. What I've tried to do is pull it out. And yes, I will get anger thrown at me. You can't say that, Thomas. Well, I have. And the reason I have is that I'm actually trying to help you. Not hinder. I'm not here to hinder anyone bar the progression of the people. It's for the people and by the people. We've had enough of their control systems, and that's what I'll hinder. The object is for us all to rise up, shine all our lights as brightly as possible, and say to the dark, it's our time now. But we all have work to do. For too long in our lives, we have negated responsibility to others. Those others don't have our interest. They never have. So if we want change, we have to be the change. And we can't change with anger, with trauma, with victim status, with saviour programs. The saviour program is you, not me, not ETs or Jesus. You. It's always been you. You've just forgotten. And that was the purpose of the last hour. I opened up, I said, it's not designed to make you feel guilty. It's designed to make you shine your light as bright as possible. Do the inner work. Do the shadow sides. Think how we can change. Whatever interest you have, come up with ideas. So when the time comes, your voice will be heard. I've heard many say, when are we going to get a say, Thomas? But you have to stop and think. You don't put your own thoughts into the equation. I mentioned many months ago the blockages that were preventing manifest going out are no longer as prevalent. So do you spend the rest of your day or week projecting anger at somebody else for pointing out the truth? Or projecting anger at the cabal for not playing fair? Or do you project out your light and your ideas of how this world can be better and put it out into the cosmos? If we all did it, things do and will change. From an overview point of view, if there was a group of ETs looking down at us as a collective, do you think they're seeing sufficient wanting change? Because from their vantage point, there's not. And so because we're more of a minority, we have to shout louder. No more the sound of silence. Right, we're going to go into some questions. One of the questions I got from the email was a person requesting information of Dr. Nadu, and here is his address: Knowledge Village 80A at gmail.com. Knowledge Village 80A as in Apple at gmail.com. Since we are manipulated with ritual black magic, can we learn white magic to counteract these spells and protect ourselves? Yes. Use your own thoughts to counteract it. It's a bit like the psychic attacks. Do you need a book? No. Use your own imagination. You don't need some shaman or some wizard to fix it for you. We all have the ability. You've just forgotten. So people who are having attacks, use your imagination and put a blocking field around yourself and your home. It does work. I've never been able to get my head around the concept of having gold instead of cash. When the shit hits the fan, how does one use a lump of gold or silver to get staples? Well, there was something in place at one time where the shopkeeper could weigh the metals and give you the cash value. It can still be applied. Hopefully it won't come to that level. But gold and silver are always a security in case that paper vanishes. So that paper vanishes, the value of that metal goes up. So you have a security. Where are we next? Trump's son-in-law, Kushner, didn't disclose dealings he had with Goldman Sachs. Go figure. Soros's group and Peter Thiel, all loans of a huge amount with many affiliations. Why didn't disclosure of such apply to him, given the security clearances and his high-level position in the White House? What do you think will happen regarding this, and is it overall really relevant since the government is a corporation? Mr. Kushner, if reports are correct, is a Mossad agent. Oops. Goldman Sachs, of course. Mr. Trump has already employed 3 or 4 of them. Who's the president? And all these people that are put into government or the corporation have all had dodgy dealings and dodgy loans and dodgy bailouts and dodgy bankruptcies. All of them. Every last one. And the reason why the disclosure didn't apply to him is because, of course, the Zionist group are heavily protected and censored here, as we all know. You can't criticise them. You get accused of being anti-Semitic, which is another programme, because Jewish people are not Semites. Oops. And this is kind of what we're dealing with in the current corporation. You've got the Zionist faction and the Nazi faction, aka NATO, mudslinging at each other. Me, I take a step back and overview. I see it for what it is. Faction, infighting. I've called it many, many months ago. It would take place and become public. And this is what you're seeing. They're throwing each other under the bus. Will we, the public, get something out of it? Yeah. We will see the crimes of both sides. But it's what we do about it that counts. Maybe eventually the whole public will see that the whole lot of it is one organised mafia criminality. There may be 1 or 2 that are okay. The reality is most of them, if not all, are not. They're in bed with some faction or other, otherwise they wouldn't be in that position. You don't think in this day and age that there's anyone, a politician, who's totally for the people. You don't get in those positions by having that opinion. And this is what I was trying to get mentioned going back 20 months ago when I first criticised Trump on the Cosmic Voice show and got a lot of abuse for it. But until the public provide our own people as a viable alternative for government compared to the corporation, this is what we'll always get. So I have a feeling in the not too distant future Mr. Kushner will be at the forefront of things. Watch this space. You have advised people to hang on to any silver that they may have, and have also recommended removing money from banks. If people have any extra cash, would it be safer to use it to buy silver, or would it be better to keep as cash? I guess what I'm really asking, will cash lose value in relation to silver when we're in the midst of changing to a new financial system? Good question. And I'm not a financial advisor. I would keep enough of both. It's best to be safe than sorry, if you can afford to do so. You know, one of the things they're trying to implement is a cashless society. Why do you think they're doing that? Why do they think certain shops now won't even accept cash? Why do you think they're doing that? Because they'll enroll you into the system. What happens next? Well, they've already told you. People who criticise the government are classed as terrorists. If the only method of funds you have is on a computer screen and you don't have anything physical in your hand, and they press delete, what happens next? All these people talking about let's get rid of cash. With cash you control your own destiny. Silver as well. They introduced cards for a reason. They can microchip it. Nice little tracker. Why do you think certain adverts come up for items you've just mentioned or bought? Think about that. That's the depth of the technology they have. The ads are not the same on everyone's TV anymore. They're conditioned to you. The key is to condition yourself to turn it off. Make a stance. Any advert or product you see on the TV, don't buy it. Buy an alternative. Every time you go and buy something that's already on the TV, you're encouraging them to pursue it more. We have the choice. We're not buying your advertised products. We'll go and buy somebody else's that are not advertising on the TV. That way they get a message, and you take back your power, where you're not programmed into buying their particular insurance or their particular car. No, you buy what you want, not what they're telling you to buy. That's something everyone can do. So if they're advertising, for argument's sake, Wendy's burgers, don't go. If they're advertising McDonald's, don't go. Go to Burger King if that's what you want. So, like what I was explaining in the last hour, this is where we can make our choice, not the choices we're given. Thomas, in your opinion, how will the masses react to the religions being bogus, and would that trigger the event? Which event? I'm not being facetious, but too many events. It's the biggest thing on this planet for the volume of numbers we'll face, and this is one of the aspects of why ET disclosure still, to some, to me, we've already had the ET disclosure. We've been having it for the last 40 odd years. But the full public mainstream media announcement by Trump or Putin or some other so-called famous person on TV ends religion. They may try and spin it into something else, but the gods were the ET clowns that were interfering here over many thousands of years. The Vatican, the den of iniquity, biggest place, satanic place on the planet. When people realise who their God is, there's going to be an awful lot of people throwing up. Mark my words. For what purpose is the current alien invasion being done? There's no current alien invasion. This next question and its answer will probably make you sick, but it is what it is. Is circumcision a form of satanic ritual? Partially. But it's also a selling product. Oops. The tip of the penis that is cut off in so-called religious ceremonies throughout the world is actually a fountain of youth, and actually one of the best sources of fibroblasts. Now, fibroblasts are what cosmetic companies have been looking for years. They are the key to growing new skin, and therefore widely used for skin grafts, pasting skin transplants over sores and other skin conditions. So the foreskin makes them great for cosmetic applications. One baby's foreskin can be stretched to grow almost $100,000 worth of fibroblasts. I'll repeat that again. One baby's foreskin can be stretched to grow almost $100,000 worth of fibroblasts. And we buy these products. There's another story today. A Jewish rabbi, I think he was, has been buying kidneys from Israel and selling it to people in the United States, buying them for $10,000 in Israel, which is probably the Palestinian kids, and selling them to the USA for $120,000. Remember I said the last hour about the medical world and the programming? Of course, the Jewish rabbis, they don't use scalpels or cutters to remove the kids' foreskin. They use their mouth and the teeth. And we tolerate this shit. Yes, they spin you the illusion that it's more clean for men. Is it bollocks? What you're doing is cutting away the sensitivity. What you're doing is disfiguring a child before it's even started its life. Did that child have a choice? Well, parents who have gone along and had the foreskin removed of their child. Wrong. But then if you'd have been given the knowledge, would you still do it? So don't feel guilty. It's this type of knowledge that's coming out. You're realising what's been going on. Of course, in some countries they mutilate female genitalia. It's the same thing. Pervert pedophiles given license to touch young children's genitalia, all for medical purposes. My arse it is. When it comes to cloning, is a living subject required or recently parted just as good? I'm not too sure on the second part. I don't know enough about cloning, but my limited knowledge is it requires a living subject. Now, of course, certain parts will still be active for a recently departed also. They're up to no good either way. But as reported earlier, a lot of those clone sites are now being shut down. And they need to be all shut down and permanent. It serves no purpose. The US Corp used to be registered in Delaware. It's now in Puerto Rico. Go figure. There's the IRS and Federal Reserve Bank, to name the top ones. And the question, did the US Corp go bankrupt? It's been bankrupt since 1933. It's never come out of it. It stays afloat because they securitized the people. The people are the collateral for the debt, and this is what we're trying to change with the sovereignty program, because that debt doesn't belong to us. They're saying it's I think the person who done this question has kind of got mixed up with the words. They're saying it's PR question mark, or did Puerto Rico really go bankrupt? Yes, it has. It's been going bankrupt for over 12 months. I get the feeling it's the former, that the US corp went bankrupt, and they're saying it's the latter to distract us. No, both are bankrupt. No former, no latter, both are bankrupt. Basically, they've used Puerto Rico as collateral to keep going. Now Puerto Rico's bankrupt. It's a bit like Europe. Greece, Cyprus, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, all gone bankrupt. The reality is every country on the planet is bankrupt. The question remains, who owns all the money? Who's the debt payable to? Because if 70% of the trade is off-world, there's your answer. It's time we wrote it off. Are we presently capable of and involved in creating our own multiple lives in concurrently occurring dimensions? We're not creating. We are. Like the ending to most of the shows. We are multi-dimensional beings operating simultaneously on many levels. So it's not a case of creating. It's already there. It's not needed to be created. And if so, is the concept of atonement at one meant with ourselves rather than an outside higher entity? Yeah. It's pulling. This is where what's been happening recently. And by recent I mean the last 5, 6, 7 years. More and more people are pulling in more of themselves. More of the whole self. More aspects of the self that are not in this construct. So suddenly a lot of people are getting a deeper understanding of things and think, where did I learn that from? The answer is you. Not some channeled entity, or Archangel Michael or Gabriel and all the other bullshittery. You. So this is what people have been sensing. Some people feel like they're bigger because there's more of you where it should be, inside, not external, internal. This may have come up before, apologies if it has. Is Sasha Stone and a New Earth legit or cabal? I don't know. What of Tellinger and Ubuntu? Again, Michael Tellinger's links with Project Camelot doesn't fill me with much hope, but you never know. I'm not going to discount it or not just because he appeared on that show, but it doesn't augur too well, given so many have been found to be awry that went on that show. Are transgenders or alien invasion? No. A lot of people have varied opinions on the transgenders. Some people, it makes them sick. Some people are not bothered one way or the other, and some people empathise or sympathise with them. Depends on the individual. The problem being is over the last 30 to 40 years is the drugs that they've been pumping into people. Gender bending drugs. And it starts with the babies. One company known as Mothercare back in the UK was fined and eventually shut down because they admitted they were putting gender bending drugs into the baby's milk formula. Oops. And this is why this particular person wants to see a total end to the genetic stuff. Unless it's going to fix people, genetics has to stop. These people, or these clowns doing it, are repeating the mistakes of the past of the Antlands. Yes, you heard that right. Antlands. As in bug-eyed bastards. They were messing with creation. You've heard the term that Cobra uses, chimera. Chimera is the mixture of man and animal, or man and bird. Thoth. Go and look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs. They're not some people's wild imagination, or no, odd people going around with strange masks on their head. They're real. Half man, half bird. Half man, half cat. The felinoid group. And the Baphomet. Half man, half bull. That is what a chimera is. A mixture of man and animal. Do we really want to be repeating that? Not in my opinion, we don't. Now, the other aspect to transgenderism can be a social side. There's a raft of them in Asia. Why? Because China implemented one child per family. Now, if that first child was born a girl, a lot of those girls were killed, because then the family name line ends, and so they want boys to carry on the family name. Thousands and thousands and thousands of female children were killed at birth in China because of that policy. Then what happens as it progresses, then you've got an imbalance between male and female. Does that not then create a situation where the males then become females? This is what happens. Now the other, on a spiritual aspect, to do with the transgender, is we've all been male and female in various lifetimes. What if an individual comes through with certain memory? They were born and the soul entered into a male vessel, but they still remember the last life when they were in a female vessel. That's likely the main reason why people decide to remove one genital and replace it with the other. So there's a range of issues to do with transgenderism. Now, of course, the problem we have in the Deep South is the Bible thinks anything to do with homosexual behaviour is abhorrent and against God and all that stuff. But that's not teaching compassion for fellow human beings, is it? What people choose to do in their own bedrooms is their own doing. If people want to choose to remove the penis and look like girls, that's their choice. It's only when those choices are being forced upon you by certain drugs that are bending that choice that it becomes an issue. But the problem with most transgenders, and it's not a problem per se, is they have genetic memory. They came into a male vessel. It's generally male transferred into female. There is transgenders the other way, but that's not the main focus of attention for most people. But they're not an alien invasion. I'm not sure if you've ever talked about Bitcoin or Ether, two digital currencies that are pretty popular in alternative circles. So is the RV, oops, and dinars, and dongs, and all kinds of other nonsense. Are they cabal connected? And if not, what do you think about digital currency? I would suggest it is. I've never heard of Ether. Fresh air. Maybe that tells you. But let's look at it from an overview point of view. Somebody decides that a piece of metal and puts a number on it and says that's of value, and we accept it. Well, somebody decides and goes, come and buy this off this computer program. Digital currency. You give me your cash and I'll give you a number on a screen. Think about that. Does it sound valid? So you give up all your hard-earned cash and have a load of screen coins. The question earlier, if it all goes down, how are you going to buy anything with coins on a screen? Does it really sound like it's something that has any validity for the people? To be quite honest, I have no idea whether it's cabal or not. But it doesn't sound right, does it? And if it doesn't sound right, more often than not, it's bogus. And my opinion on digital currency was explained earlier. If everyone goes digital and all they've got as value to purchase anything is on a screen, and that person is not liked, these people just make rules up as they go along, and they delete your digital currency where you've got no comeback. What can you do? You can't pull money out of a computer screen or a phone, can you? What if some rogue organisation decides they're going to delete everyone's account? How are you going to get back currency that's just numbers on a screen, like a program, like the Matrix? So you see where I'm going with this? The idea that we need digital currency in this day and age, or for the foreseeable future, should be something all people reject. We have to have an element of trust in what people are doing that are making the decision before we as a people go anywhere near digital currency. Here's an example of somebody not listening to the show as it was stated, because I made it quite clear when I mentioned this particular piece. On the last show you made some shocking statements about mixing of the races. Could you explain so I won't think you're going Nazi on us? I did explain. It has got nothing to do with racism. It's got everything to do with genetics. I said it twice last week. If you want to be part of the program and link no mixing of races with Nazism, you are the program. Just because the Nazis pushed it doesn't mean to say there isn't elements in it that's part truth. Now, according to the Levashov material, it stated the same thing. So it's not just one source that mentioned it. The peoples were genetically different. Nothing to do with race. That's the programming. The reality is we came from 24 different races, some of which were reptilian. Do you think that's a good mix? You keep doing that, you end up with chimera. Is that racism? No, it's genetics. You have to get out of this black, white, yellow. It's all there to divide and conquer. The three races put here were all separate because they all came from different genetics. When you start mixing genetics, things go sideways for at least one of those group, if not both. So no, I'm not going Nazi. Nothing to do with racism or race. It's to do with genetics. What is the truth, and how do we know it to be true? That is your decision to make, not mine. Like I said earlier, it's about empowerment of the self. What is your truth may be different to mine. Is one right and one wrong? Does it matter? Will you hold on if you find out that your truth or my truth was wrong? Or will you hold your hand up and go, "Ah, well, I've made a mistake, sorry about that." A bit like Greg Giles, who's been mentioned this week, who took the brave step of denouncing channeling. He was duped. He thought he was talking to all kinds of ascended or descended masters, more like it, and fallen archangels. It's the Grey program. That's why we took the step on Cosmic Voice to ban channeling off the page. But some people thought it was okay to do. Yes, they will replay to you what you want to hear. You will hear the people you want to speak to. It's an AI program, remember. Greg Giles apologised to all his members and listeners. A brave thing to do. He put a lot of effort into that, and he believed it to be true, but he found out it wasn't. Some people will hide behind the lie, but it's not helping them or anybody else, is it? The desire to be proven right should not outweigh of proving the truth. With the current USA politics, is there a swamp? The whole of District of Columbia is a swamp, period. And if so, how do you drain it? Ongoing. What are we next? On time? Oh, it's gone over the 3 hours. Let me see if I can get what would take for all the chemtrails to stop. The people to say we've had enough. All of the people. Obama seems to be having the fun. Was he really arrested? No. It's the same question. If Corey Gooden and David Wilcock are tainted, what purpose do they serve, or whose purpose do they serve? They serve themselves and make a lot of money in the meantime, whilst serving a purpose for the cabal to create side streets in our path towards the truth. That's what they do. A video game by the name of Kingdom of Hearts has been out for some time now, and I wonder if the heartless, which could be seen as negative astral beings feeding off people's hearts, are not related. Yeah, could well be. When people lose their heart in the game, they fade away into nothing, and all that's left is the heartless that has now got a tangible form. The hero you play is meant to visit various worlds in their spaceship and lock the worlds from further damage once the doorway is found. Is this a reference to what is happening? Pretty much. The vampiric, non-corporeal entities feeding off us. That's how they do it. So all we've got left is an empty shell. That's why I did the piece in the second hour. We're not empty shells. We're not vessels to be tortured, maimed, mind-controlled and abused. We're worth much more than that. And each and every one of us should recognise that and tolerate nothing. I've shown you some of the examples tonight. How small changes, which just takes a little bit of effort, can change things. If more and more people, where you create a pyramid, like the Ponzi scheme the cabal have, where 1 makes 2, 2 make 4. The people do that of changing the way they're living, and look at how they're living, look at what they're purchasing. Is it all the same as the adverts you're seeing on your TV? If it is, stop it, because it's programming. You've been programmed to buy their items. Stop it, recognise it and stop it. Think of solutions. How will we, the people, fill the void of the cabal being ended? Are we going to waste our time fighting legal bullshittery, or playing ego games, or rioting or looting like the people of Brazil did when the cops went on strike? I said at the time, it doesn't augur well for humanity. The answers, as I said earlier, always lie within. The piece was not to judge you, or to criticise you, or to make you feel guilty. It was just purely designed to make you think in a different way. When we all think in a different way, with a critical mind and an overview, the changes will take place. If you lead life in love and care, you will prevail. If you lead life in fear and anger, you will fail. Feel free for you to be the person you wish to be, not the person who conforms to what others want them to be. That's the programming. You are a multi-dimensional being operating simultaneously on many levels. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be stifled. You are not here to be enslaved, and you are not here to be abused. You're also not here to compete with your friends, family or neighbours. You are here to be the best you can be, and do so as the crown of creation. Now go out with the confidence of who and what you are, and excel in yourself, and in doing so, inspire others. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I hope it gave you something to think about. I hope each day between now and the next show you think about aspects of the show, and more importantly aspects of your own lives. The ultimate goal of this show is to get